Hello, welcome and good night to this episode of the Retro Game Reviews. Today I have quite the spread here, and we'll be talking about and having a look at Populous. This is actually one of the very earliest, if not the earliest, god simulations, they're called. Basically some kind of real-time strategy game where you have power over a whole world, basically. You usually can't influence individual characters, though that may vary from game to game. And you're basically some kind of deity ruling over this world. And in Populous, the idea is you are helping those people to settle the world, and there's, of course, your tribe, which is good, and there's the other side, an evil god, or Satan or whatever, trying to kill all of your people. So what do? You try to kill the other side and make the best of it. I have here 3 different versions of the game. Well, basically those 2 are base versions. One for the PC, that we will be having a look at later, and also one for the SEGA Megadrive, and we'll compare this to the PC version. Plus something very special that I haven't ever played before. The Promised Lands, 5 new worlds. Yeah, let's take a quick look at the boxes and then we'll take a look at the gameplay and the games themselves, basically. So, what's inside the box? Or rather, outside of the box. It's actually a pretty small package. My version here is pretty roughed up. Well, being from 1990, it's already basically almost 30 years old, as most of the stuff I'll be reviewing here. And let's take a look inside. It comes with a pretty extensive manual. It's not very big or anything, but it will give you a view through all the game concepts, a reference card, and I have here the German version of the game, which also serves as the copy protection, and there's all kinds of short key commands. And the Promised Lands, oh, that belongs actually in the other package. Reference card is the same. And then the game itself, it comes on one 5¼ inch floppy disk. Looks like this. It's actually 360 kilobytes. Works on the original PC and XT. Everything from CGA upwards. But it still has pretty nice VGA graphics even, as you will see. Especially for the time being, one of the very first VGA games available. So the game is really tiny. It even supports sound cards like the Adlib and the Roland devices, which we will hear later. Although on the PC the soundtrack is pretty limited, and on the Mega Drive as well. There's only one musical score, which you can luckily turn off during the game. Plus a few select sound effects, but on Adlib and Roland they are not worth mentioning. On the Sega they are more useful. The Promised Lands comes with the aforementioned reference card and has this very interesting box, which I've never seen like that before, and also comes on one double density floppy. So all in all, it was a pretty small game, but still the base game comes with 500 different levels, spanning 4 different worlds, namely Greenlands like grassland, ice, lava and desert, and the Promised Lands come with some other things: Silly Land, Wild West, Blockland, Revolution Française, supposed to be French Revolution, I guess, and the Bit Plains. So I haven't ever seen this before back in the day, so I'm looking forward to seeing what this actually is all about. Okay, let's take a look at the Sega version, which comes in the standard box that you are all familiar with for Sega games. Funny enough, the backside also shows in different languages a description of the game, short description of the game. Inside you get a chunky manual having 3 different English, German and Swedish description of the game. Pretty extensive again. Oh, the former owner noted down the different codes for the worlds, because there are no save games, but whenever you beat a world you get the code word for the next. And then you have the game Cartridge, which is in a slightly different format. This is the format that Electronic Arts utilized, and you can see probably here embossed in yellow is the original Electronic Arts logo, the square, the sphere and the pyramid. And actually Sega lost a lawsuit where they demanded from all the publishers to go the licensed route and make cartridges designed by Sega with the Sega logo and probably having to pay a lot of money to Sega. And they lost that, and Electronic Arts and some other vendors started making their own cartridges, and they look slightly different, but they still have the edge connector and everything. They are fully compatible with the Genesis and Megadrive systems. Alright, so that's that. Even though the game is very small on the PC, the difference between the PC with 640k of memory and VGA graphics and the likes, and on my machine a 12 MHz processor, is quite a different beast from what you can expect on the Mega Drive with its 64 kilobytes of RAM and an 8 MHz 68000 processor. Well, the CPU is probably comparable, but the other specs of the system are way below that of a PC, except maybe for some of the graphics functions like sprites. But we will see how it compares to the PC version. So let's take a look at the games. In Populous you are a god, a deity that has power over a small tribe in one of many hundreds of worlds. In the beginning you have power over only a few. When they begin to settle and create new villages, they will grow in numbers, and you will gain power in the form of Manna. You can spend Manna to influence the world, raise or level the ground. The more flat the ground is, the better your people can settle. They will build bigger villages or even castles. There is of course also the enemy. They are an evil tribe and must be wiped off the face of the earth. You can send natural disasters to your enemy, such as earthquakes, swamps, volcanoes or floods. But beware, you can damage your own followers as well. The interface to Populous shows a couple of distinct areas. In the upper left you see the Book of Worlds, which shows an overview map of the current world, with dots marking your settlements and people, and those of the enemy. In the lower left are the set of control icons. You can move the map around, trigger catastrophes, or set the settlement mode of your people. Furthermore, you can switch from the default action of terraforming to inspection of settlements or people by clicking the question mark, or you can place the PayPal magnet. This can be used to send your people to a strategically important place. In the center of the screen is the detailed map, which you can interact with by clicking left or right on the PC, or pressing the A and C buttons on the Sega gamepad. Above it you can see the Manna bar, which indicates your level of influence and hence the power that you can wield, from simple terraforming to deadly floods and even triggering the apocalypse. In the upper corner there are also statistics, your strength versus that of the enemy, and detailed unit information that you gather by using the question mark icon. Lastly, the lower right shows on the PC some options for sound, pausing the game or setting up a 2-player game using null modem cables. The goal of each level is to eliminate your opponent completely. This can be done in multiple ways. First, you can try to drown all the other people, for example by using the powerful flood disaster. This is hard and in some levels outright impossible since water is not always deadly, like in warmer desert worlds. Second, your people can fight. However, they will not actively do so, except when changing their behavior to fight first, then settle mode. Better if you use your power to knight one of your people, but make sure to set the settle mode to go to Papal Magnet first. Then they will flock to the magnet and join up to form one super knight that will actively seek out the enemy and ravage their villages and castles. Make sure to build land bridges for your knights, or else they will wander around aimlessly. Lastly, you can trigger the Apocalypse once you accumulated enough mana. Make sure you have more influence in people than your opponent, because this is a last man standing kind of fight. The game runs extremely smoothly on my 286 at 12 MHz and with VGA graphics, but you can play it even on an original 4.77 MHz PC using CGA graphics. Being from 1989, the game already sports 256 color VGA graphics, which is very impressive for the time. It also supports ad-lib and Roland music. There is not much in the way of sound effects on the PC, but that does not hurt the gameplay. The music is limited to one track, that you may want to turn off after the first couple of minutes, especially on the ad-lib card. Going to the SEGA Megadrive, we noticed that the graphics look a bit more dull, but still great, being limited to 32 colors at the same time. The music is roughly on par with ad-lib version, but we even got some nice digitized sound effects during fights. The game plays best with a mouse on the PC, but the Sega gamepad works incredibly well, especially since pressing the B button plus the keypad lets you quickly scroll the map. However, the game runs into troubles when the levels get heavily populated. The little Motorola CPU and the limited amount of RAM really start to sweat and the frame rate goes visibly down. This side-by-side comparison shows the effect pretty nicely. All in all, the Sega version is very playable and does not lag much compared to the PC version. The later levels will introduce different world styles such as lava, ice and desert. Each world style has different parameters. Your people, for example, will freeze to death or die of thirst if they have to wander around for too long without being able to settle. Also, the rate of development will be slowed in the harsher worlds. Every world will increase in difficulty. In the first levels, your opponent reacts very slowly and can't trigger catastrophes, while in the last levels he will react faster than you and try to ruin you with earthquakes and volcanoes. The AI is not unbeatable and rather deterministic, but hard enough to give you a run for your money in later levels. Populous is an extremely neat little game, which reminds me a lot of good board games due to its simple rules, map setup and graphics. In my opinion, it has aged extremely well and is still worthwhile playing for a lot of hours. Inventing new tactics and strategies in every world is very fulfilling, and apart from the annoying ad-lib music, which is much better but still monotonous on the Roland devices, the presentation is also well done. I give it 9 out of 10 points due to the lack of variation in the soundtrack, but otherwise it's a very great game. And that covers my review of the game Populous. If you enjoyed this, please share, like and subscribe, and check out my other videos if you want to. So long, goodbye and good night.